watching Arise, the world's standout news channel. Arise News, awards, and beyond.
The Tinubu administration embarks on a global media campaign, launching an international press engagement blitz to try to counter President Trump's threat of military action against Nigeria. The administration's efforts aim to clarify Nigeria's position and to showcase the government's dedication to defeating terrorism. Mr. Tinubu's team has been engaging not just with the global media, but with international partners, including, they say, the United States, but not limited to Washington, in an attempt to promote understanding and greater cooperation on counter-terrorism. So what are the key points from the Tinubu administration's messaging, and what has been the international community's response beyond taking note of that messaging? How much support has been expressed in favor of Nigeria? I'll be joined in the studio by the Special Advisor to President Tinubu on Media and Policy Communication, Daniel Bwala. Also on the program, the Anambra governorship election was supposed to reinforce Peter Obi's position as one of the most influential political voices in contemporary Nigeria, and to mark his place on the political landscape ahead of the main event in 2027. But not only did his candidate lose, in what's been described as a near-fatal political blow, Mr. Obi lost the polling booth in his own ward to the APC. So how much has this laid bare his political mortality? And whatever happened to the much talked about voting muscle of the seemingly invincible obedient movement? You would have thought they'd be the ones shaping the electoral outcome in Anambra State. Well, as we reflect on the result of the governorship election in that bellwether southeastern state, in an era of continuing vote buying, rising disinformation, and waning trust in politicians, the security agencies, and the Electoral Commission, INEC, I'll be joined in the studio by the National Coordinator of the Obedient Movement Worldwide, Dr. Yunusa Tanko. I'm Charles Enyegolu, and this is Arise Prime Time. Now, it's been described as an extraordinary moment in the history of Nigeria, one that's placed this country's diplomatic efforts on high alert as President Tinubu attempts to navigate a tense standoff with US President Donald Trump, who has threatened military action over alleged Christian persecution. The Tinubu administration is pulling out all the stops, summoning foreign diplomats and rallying international support to defend Nigeria's sovereignty in the face of a diplomatic firestorm from America. And in the face of that bombast, President Tinubu's aides have launched a global media blitz, emphasizing Nigeria's commitment to religious freedom and territorial integrity, whilst urging international allies to support the country's fight against terrorism, even as that intense American threat of overwhelming aggression still looms large over this country. Take a look at this government video about the international media engagement of one of President Tinubu's aides, Daniel Bwala.
There is no genocide against Christians in Nigeria, but there is insecurity that affects people of all religious and non-religious faith in Nigeria, for which the Christians are part of.
Insurgents, but only.
I personally, I have a feeling that in the next couple of days, they are going to have a sit down together, and then we will find a common front in this fight against insecurity.
The US president threatening to deploy American troops to your country. What is your nation's response, please, Daniel?
we try our best to downplay the rhetoric because we know.
Well, let's assess the effectiveness of the administration's international media campaign. And for this, I'm joined now in the studio by the Special Advisor to President Tinubu on Media and Policy Communication, Daniel Bwala. Good to see you, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening.
You've been doing quite a tryst around the world, haven't you?
Yeah, post-missionary journey. We still have some coming.
Right. So tell us what you've been doing to counter President Trump's narrative.
So the president is clear about his administration's resolve in fighting insecurity. And that is evidence in the so many steps he has taken even before Nigeria was designated. You recall he rejigged the service chiefs. In August, there was even a defense contract we signed, approval from the State Department for the sale of weapons, I think to the tune of over $300 million. He has given the charge to the Nigerian soldiers to make arrests, deal with insecurity. So he's already on that line. But then misinformation came and then it led to that conversation. And we just realized that for many years, we allow the world to tell our own story when matters affect us. And the outcome has always not been favorable. So this time around, the president decided, let's take the message ourselves to the rest of the world and tell them, fact as they are, as transparent as our government is, and our resolve in dealing with insecurity.
Right, but how effective has it been? Has it been a winning formula? Is it reaching the ears of the people in the White House and the man in the Oval Office?
Definitely, definitely. If you have been observing the various engagement by the government of the United States, whether it is members of the executive or the legislative, from when that tirade started to now, the tone is coming down. It's more of a call for cooperation, more of a call for partnership, more of a call for us to...
Well, I don't see the tone coming down. What I'm seeing is that Donald Trump told people like Riley Moore and other members of Congress to go and investigate and report back to him. And so that's what they're doing at the moment.
And the same people that he gave the assignment to, which was led by Riley Moore, Congressman Riley Moore, if you have seen his most recent tweet, I think it was early today or yesterday, when he was talking about Nigeria has the opportunity to take advantage of partnership and collaboration. He said, I called and I asked the government of Nigeria to partner with us so we can assist them. Unlike in the past when they would say guns are blazing, people are flying.
No, that was Donald Trump saying.
But they re-echoed it in their various platforms.
But I'm not sure the rhetoric has come down.
It has.
I mean, I think what they're doing is that they're watching to see what you guys are actually going to do. And the question on a lot of people's minds is, have you actually been able to address Mr. Trump's demands? Because, I mean, to a lot of people, it doesn't look like you have.
No, you see, so let me give you a perspective and very briefly on that. Both Donald Trump and the government of Nigeria are on the same page. We all have shared interest in the fight against terrorism. We already have an established relationship with them. And that's why I said as early as this last August, there was an approval by the State Department for procurement of arms. We paid for them, right? So what he did recently, which of course outside of the established order, because what he said was not premised on the advisory of the State Department and the various organizations. It was just this congressman, but we've gone past that stage. So the point I'm saying is that we are on the same page with them. But the recent development of what seemed to be like a conflict is creating the avenue and opportunity for us to sit down and review the various defense contract and relationship that we have with them, so we can have enhanced military ammunitions and technical equipment, especially one that relates to reconnaissance and intelligence gathering.
Well, what they want the Nigerian government to get, what they want, and they've made it very clear.
Right.
They want the Nigerian government to get its act together, do more for its people, to keep them secure, less frustrated, stop the corruption, stop the bad governance, stop the insecurity, stop the muddling through. Too many security issues, get a handle on things, or the Americans are going to come in and do it.
So let
That's
me ask
basically
you,
the message.
So if that is what they are saying,
well, that is what they're saying.
So what is the timeline?
I don't know what the timeline is.
That is why we're explaining to you.
I mean,
that's why we're explaining to you what we are doing. Let me tell you this. Americans, when to Afghanistan in 2001 with clear mission to change the regime, establish democratic government, and move on. They spent 21 years. They stayed 21 years and spent 2.4 trillion US dollars, lost 18 CIA high-valued operatives, 20,800 military contractors, and then a lot of damages.
I don't think it's,
I'm coming.
I don't
Let
think
me
it's the
land.
same
Let me
scenario
land.
at all.
Let me land.
Yeah.
And after 21 years, they handed the government back to the Taliban. Do you know why? Imagine threats are not things you deal with tomorrow. That's why rhetoric don't help issues. What we look at systems. Are we making the effort? So judge us on whether we're making the effort or not. I just told you as a monologue, the steps the president has taken, the resolve that we have, the tax and charges that he gave to the men of the armed forces and other security platforms
let me
to deal with that.
Right. Let me put it this way.
Right.
Where do you think the Tinubu government has gone wrong in all of this? Do you hold yourselves accountable for any of the allegations against you, or do you hold yourselves blameless? Because as you know, in public life, in a democracy,
Right.
leaders need to hold themselves accountable.
And the people as well can hold their leaders accountable, and our government is open to feedback. If you recall, Mr. Charles, before I traveled outside of Nigeria, we started the engagement with the Nigerian communities and religious leaders as the foundation, the ground zero of this conflict resolution. They gave their feedbacks. I was on your show. I talked about their recommendation to deepening the fight, make arrests, prosecute the individuals. We are tired of hearing condolence messages. We want to see result. So we have already had the impression and recommendation of the Nigerian people, and we're working with it.
Right.
Right?
Right. How bothered by Mr. Trump's vitriolic, confrontational threats would you say President Tinubu is? Is he mildly or incredibly concerned that the U.S. seems to have run out of patience with his government?
No. I will put it this way. I am sure that after Donald Trump made those remarks through his tweet, you have heard the position of our president.
Right.
Calm and collected, and our commitment to protect our territorial integrity, to fight terrorism and insurgency, preserve and protect the Nigerian citizens. So he's focused on that. All of the subsequent actions and acts of the president in relation to his communication with the servicemen has always been consistent with that. And we're clear about the objective. The reason we're not bothered, I said it now in the meeting, the interview I had, the way we read is different from the way people perceive what Donald Trump is saying. Thankfully, we understood his style of communication. We know the message. We take away the rhetorics. We're working with the message. What I can tell you I've been hearing lately as a feedback from the Nigerian people is when arrests are made of terrorists, that the story sort of disappears. They don't see actual prosecution in the court. Then with respect to dealing with the terrorists themselves, Nigerians have complained that oftentimes these same terrorists or bandits, as in this case may be, tomorrow they will claim to be reconciling, another day they are striking. They need a zero tolerance approach to it. Was that not what the president said? So there is a commitment on our part, and we respect, and just the way you hear opinion of the Nigerian people, you also hear opinion of partners. That's what relationship is all about. So we take the message and we're working with it.
Okay, let me ask you this. What level of direct communication can you tell us is taking place right now between the Tinubu administration and the White House? Because we recall that you put out a tweet some time ago where you said, or you claimed, that President Tinubu and Mr. Trump were going to meet.
Right.
Whatever happened to that?
Right. So I said hopefully they are going to meet either in the White House or in the State House. Now,
well, that doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
But it will still happen. There's no timeline to it. It can happen anytime. But the point I'm saying is, as per
well,
the
you did say at the time that they were going to meet in the next couple of days or so.
And what does that mean?
That was the impression. Couple of days means 2 days.
No.
That's literally what
okay,
couple...
maybe you are English, I'm a Nigerian. That's not...
Yeah, but even if couple of days goes beyond 2 days, the expectation is that it is going to be within a very reasonable period
and we're
time.
Still within the time of reasonability.
Your definition of time.
But let me, everybody's subject to interpretation, but let me escalate that further. I get asked, Reuters have asked me, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal.
So basically, there is no meeting that is imminent at the moment.
Wall Street Journal
right?
and some of these other organizations have asked whether we have a direct contact, whether we have a specific date. And I told them that in diplomacy, protocol is key. When you're brooding, when you're building on something, it is important that it be preserved and protected. We can never be moved to a point where we tell you the stage we are at.
No, but when you say protocol, what are you talking about? You don't even have an ambassador in Washington. So what kind of protocol
So you don't have to have an ambassador for your missions to operate.
What is the protocol that you're talking about, that you're following? Because we're not, I mean, we've got
the protocol I'm
we
talking
have
about.
people in that we know people.
Right.
Arise even has a correspondent who's very close to them.
What did she
who's
say?
very close to, I'm not talking about her necessarily.
Who else then?
There are people behind the scenes, okay, who are also very close to the White House. And there's been no indication whatsoever
So
of any direct communication between Aso Rock and the White House.
And we cannot be cowed or pushed to the point of revealing the stage we are at in this discussion, because in diplomacy, there must be respect for protocol.
Well, the implication, let's just return to the message that came from the White House.
Yeah.
The implication of Mr. Trump's statement is that everything that is wrong with this country at the moment can be attributed to poor leadership. That message has also come from Canada. That message is also coming from Australia. And President Tinubu is in the saddle of that leadership at the moment. And before him, the man he and his APC party helped into the presidency for 8 years, a man who you were very critical of, Muhammadu Buhari, whose leadership was characterized by pure indifference, was in the saddle for 8 years. And in both instances, what the Americans are saying is that Nigeria has failed to get its act together to fight off and fend off the multi-headed Hydra enemy on its doorstep. And where we are today, because of this country's leadership, including President Tinubu, is that there is a sense that Nigerians have been failed. And that sense has gone beyond Nigeria into the international community. And the message is, fix yourselves or we'll fix you.
That is what is called the fallacy. The fallacy.
Well, that's how you would interpret it. Because you're trying to shore up your position. Yeah, go ahead.
What we call the fallacy of media generalization. And I'm saying that right now, given our present state, the crime rate in Nigeria is less than the crime rate in the United States of America. With all of the budget, the strongest economy and the strongest force in the world. Is a matter of context. You don't hear that in their news. So
the problem in Nigeria is the lack of statistical data.
Right.
But if you go and talk to ordinary people, and when we talk about the level of crime, it's crime on... It's not necessarily armed crime or somebody hacking your head off.
All of them are subject
to corruption, in the court of law. Is intimidation, it is every kind of... I mean, for you to even sit there, it suggests that you're still not sensitive to what many people in the international community are saying, that what the Nigerian people are going through and have been going through at the hands of their government is completely and utterly unacceptable. And it is time for you to wake up and do something about it. That's the point they're making.
Let me say in a clear language,
Nigeria
is a sovereign state. It cannot be cowed or bullied into impression of
but the Nigerian people have had enough of what you're doing.
Let me also talk. Are you talking for them?
Go ahead.
You are not talking for them. You just said what they said. I have to react. That's the right
Go ahead.
Hear it. We have our opinion about them. You see, gone are those days where our own story is told by others. Context is key in everything. We know the problems we are combating and we are faced up and we are working towards. But that is not to suggest as if we are an isolated country in this side of heaven that has a peculiar problem that they don't have. The United States of America has even the problem of understanding what democracy is. The other day, was it a 2 million march that they said no king? Is that not a democratic country? I told you about the crime rate in America. Do you know the system? The government was shut down. Our government is not even shut down. You see, this continuous vituperations and repetition of word around corruption, bad governance, bribery, and the rest that they talk about? Which part of the world they don't have that?
Well, actually,
which part of the world they don't have this?
Actually, Daniel, I am simply articulating the very same things that you were talking about sitting in that seat literally a year and a half ago. But let me move on.
It doesn't matter.
Let me
Let's
move
not
on.
distract
No,
and digress from the fact.
Let me move
you
on
give
from
the
that.
impression as if America is one holier than thou country, United Kingdom one holier, Canada. You mentioned them about their opinion.
No.
We have our opinion about them too.
Nigerians.
We are focused on our problems.
Nigerians are concerned about what is going
then
on
talk
in
to
their
me
own
about
country.
Nigerians and not America, Canada.
So let me ask you
ones.
this: we are not seeing any direct attempt, because you're making out as though your real big focus is on Nigerian and the Nigerian people and alleviating their problems.
Right.
We're not seeing any attempt by the president to reach out to Nigerians at this moment. There have been very loud, increasingly strident calls for President Tinubu to address the nation about all this, and many people say they are shocked that Mr. Tinubu has still not spoken to Nigerians as a leader talking to the people he leads. Why hasn't he done so? I'm not talking about his aides. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the president. Why hasn't he deemed it necessary to talk to Nigerians about this huge quarrel that's broken out with the Americans at a time when many Nigerians are afraid and worried that things could get worse? Why not?
Well, I want to assume that the Nigerians you are referring to are Nigerians that need more education about communication.
I don't understand what you're talking. I asked you a straightforward question. You're not answering.
What is the straightforward question?
The straightforward question is, why hasn't the president,
so if the president
addressed his people at a time of incredible crisis?
And if the president speaks to the Nigerian people through tweets, is that not a communication?
Please. Let me borrow the words of the
If the president tweets, is that not a communication?
Let me
if
borrow,
the president issues a statement, is that not a communication?
No, he needs to address the Nigerian people.
Where?
Let me, on television, on radio, now, where they can watch him and hear him and look at him and hear what he has to say.
When the president received envoy and was speaking about what Nigeria is doing and the commitment of Nigeria, which is covered by TV and reported by radio, is that not a means of communication?
Let me borrow the words of the former special advisor to the Tinubu presidency on political matters, Hakeem Baba Ahmed, a member of your government, who resigned in frustration. His question was, what does it take to get President Tinubu to address the country? Is he not a leader that's elected by the people? Isn't that what leaders do? If not now, when? That's a straightforward question.
Okay. You say you want him to address Nigeria through TV.
No, I'm simply asking you a straightforward question.
The president is communicating every day. So this is what I'm taught about communication. You issue a tweet is communication. You speak through TV is a communication. Through radio is a communication. And I tell you the official act of the president is covered by TV. You have State House press call that report to you about the daily activities of the president, including the visual coverage of the president's engagement with people. Is that not a communication?
Well, the key thing really, Daniel, is whether President Trump is going to grant the Tinubu government an exemption from the things he's threatened to do. And conventional wisdom seems to suggest that even if he refrains from taking military action against Nigeria, the imposition of targeted sanctions is still likely to go ahead. A lot of his, if you like, aides have spoken about it, because many in his base are pushing for it, just like they pushed for and achieved the redesignation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. So in that regard, your efforts would have failed, wouldn't it?
No, it will not have failed. We have a good relationship with America. We understand the message, and I think I'm saying that for the opt-in time. They need enhanced counter-terrorism measures. They need relentless fight by the government against Boko Haram, ISWAP, and all other forms of criminal element. We are doing it. We accept the recommendation. We accept their opinion the same way we accept that of Nigerians, and we're doing it. The president has committed, only 17 hours ago, you've seen the success of the Nigerian soldiers against ISWAP. They neutralize people. That's part of this thing that we're doing. But if you are saying whether the Trump government is going to place sanction on us, I want to allay your fears tonight, and you can call me back later. They are not going to place sanction on us, because we are addressing the problem.
Well, we hope And they're not talking about placing sanctions on Nigeria. Let's be clear on that. They're talking about placing targeted sanctions on individuals.
Yes,
That's
if
the
an
key.
individual.
They're not talking about the Nigerian people. They never said anything about imposing sanctions on the
If
Nigerians.
they have an established case against a Nigerian citizen that requires sanctions, let them go ahead. Who is stopping them?
What we do know is that President Trump appears to want the insecurity in Nigeria to end,
Right.
which is why he's pushing the Nigerian government, putting it under pressure via those threats.
Correct.
And he really does appear. I mean, I'm just talking to you as somebody beyond your government hat that I've known for a long time.
Am I wearing a hat?
I mean, he really does appear to be turning the screws, doesn't he? I mean, I have to say that many Nigerians that we've talked to, they're actually relishing watching the Tinubu administration squirm as those screws are being turned, but presumably not yourself.
But there are some who don't know that if this sanction is placed on Nigerians, like they say, two elephants fight, it's the ground that will suffer. They are going to suffer. For example, if a sanction is placed on Nigeria, it can't stop the president from going to anywhere in the world, engaging in bilateral relationship. It can't stop the public officials who are carrying out acts on behalf of the government. But the Nigerian people are going to suffer. And our responsibility is to preserve
as I
and
said,
protect
they're not
the Nigerian
imposing
people.
sanctions on the Nigerian people.
See,
they never talked about imposing sanctions on the Nigerian. They talked about targeted sanctions. But let me say this:
we don't have a problem. They have issues to establish that.
Daniel, you're quite an international person, and you've kept up with international developments. President Trump is often described, I think the term is mercurial. He gets very angry about certain things, as he appears to be with Nigeria at the moment. But if you're his friend, it doesn't matter. How much have you factored that into your strategy? Okay. The fact that it is good to be a friend of Donald Trump and to cozy up to him.
So let me tell you what, you are pushing me to the point of having to tell you this. Some of the lawmakers of the Republican extraction said, one, Donald Trump has domestic issues that he has to create the impression of active governance. That he has a low rating, he's afraid of the midterms, and they're afraid of the election that took place last week. And it ended up not going in their favor.
It was a wipeout for the Republicans.
Correct. So he wanted to talk tough, believing that that will rile up the base. That didn't work. But they also told us not to take what he says so much serious that it will begin to be panic. They gave example. He told their largest trading partner, Canada, he will convert that country into a state. It's a rhetoric. He told the president of South Africa, you know what he has done. He has done that to a lot of leaders of the world. Nigeria is not an exception. In fact, the Prime Minister of England had to take a letter from the king in the midst of that cacophony to him, to give him in order to pacify him. People understand him and understand his psychology. But I will tell you this, and you can mark it. President Trump does not hold people in heart. He will say what he has to say, and after that, everything will go well.
Right.
In fact, the congressman even told me, the base have to be made to believe that he has answered their call to sanction Nigeria.
So in that regard, because we're running out of time now, in that regard, what do you predict for the future in the short term with regard to this problem with the Americans? Do you expect that this issue will continue to predominate over the next few weeks and months, or do you hope that Mr. Trump will get bored of the subject and move on to other things?
So Mr. Trump wants to see in the immediate some acts of Nigerian government in dealing with terrorism to suggest to him the Nigerian people have enhanced their terrorism fight. Once he sees that, it leads to the next stage, which is to remove the designation. But I want you to know, there are countries, Saudi Arabia is a country of particular concern. They have the highest sales in the Middle East of ammunition to them. Russia, most of these countries, China, they're all countries of particular concern. It has not stopped trading and commerce between them.
Right.
So Nigerian government has understood in a clear term the intention, impression, and the messaging of Trump, and we're addressing it.
Right.
And we are seeing the result. I will promise to you that very soon, all this noise is going to go down.
Okay, well, just very briefly, because we're out of time, and in the pecking order of crises that the Tinubu administration has had to face since it came into office, how high does this one rank?
Crisis? Honestly, if the pecking order is 5, I would say this is the 4th one. The most important crisis that we are facing is how to deal with problems confronting our people. Security, food, agriculture, healthcare. That's the most important one.
Okay.
Because that is national security interest.
Daniel, I want to thank you very much indeed. And thank you for abiding us, taking the time to, I know you've just come in literally from abroad, and so we appreciate your taking the time to come and talk to us. Daniel Bwala is the special advisor to President Tinubu on media and policy communication. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.